Hello, hello, hello. It is your girl Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration here. Um, I was given this topic for today, and I have been debating like where and how should I discuss this topic because it is a very sensitive topic. So before we even get into the topic, let's play this quick message real quick, and I'll be right back.
I have the Kindle version of your book. And like I said, I highly recommend this book. It is, and I've been, since I've been in Christ, past 12 years, I've read a lot of Christian books, but this book is, relationship wise, it is what you need. So you can get the understanding of how do I choose the right person? How do I, overcome heartache, as we talked about? How do I get in the will of God? Get that book, order it, and read it, and be sure to, she definitely is anointed to serve God in this capacity, and we thank you.
All right. Sorry, y'all. Still learning all this jazz. So as you guys can see, I have a new little setup that I am really excited about, that I am definitely experimenting more with. So, trying to really take it up two notches, a little bit beyond where and how I have been producing and putting out my videos. So without further ado. So tonight I want to talk about understanding God's instructions, right? God gives us a lot of instructions. And I know that that is actually one topic that is quite difficult for people to really understand. I know that I have tried so many times to explain to individuals the different ways in which God does speak to us. Recently, I did a 7-day reading of my book. You just saw someone speaking about my book, but Dear Single in Love, 8 Principles for the Woman Waiting for Her God Ordained Purpose Mate. And during that time, I did speak on how God will speak to you. And I remember saying, and it's actually in the book, God will speak to you in your dreams. God will sometimes send you to a scripture. He will maybe have someone give you a message. And a lot of times it would be consistent that you would consistently receive the same message. Or you might, every time you open up social media, you're going to receive the same message and you're going to keep seeing same things over and over. So God is very strategic in ensuring that his messages are received and that you are going to hear him, right? And this is something that I think is an amazing topic to always talk about because this is a topic that is kind of difficult for people to understand. So, before we really dive into this conversation, because I do want to talk about an interview that I did come across. It was a phenomenal interview overall. But speaking of Dear Single and Love, I started to record the audiobook. Well, I recorded the audiobook, it's done. And I will be releasing it January 2nd, 2023, top of the year, day after New Year. So right now you can pre-order. It is not going to be on Amazon for the moment. It will be something that I will be producing and releasing independently. Um, it will eventually get to those platforms, but if you can support, get your pre-order copy now. It is a bundle where you're going to get access to my Dear Single in Love digital workbook that the participants they receive. You're also going to receive behind the scene footage of me recording this. So you might even see some parts of me, my little bloopers where I messed up a few times, quite a few times. And then there was also an interview that I did at the very end. So you're going to get access to all of that, plus a bonus chapter. God gave me an entire chapter to release only for the audiobook. So go to tanishashanae.com/connect and get your pre order in. You will get your copy before January 2nd. I'm actually going to be honest about that. But I'm giving myself until January 2nd to put everything out. So that is something that I did want to share. promote and talk about because, we got to support. And if we don't talk about what we're doing, people are never going to know. So let's get back to this topic of how we, understanding God's instructions. So, because everyone knows that I talk about singles and I talk about kingdom marriages and God's relationship with us, when people saw this interview, I had three people send me this interview, send me clips. They didn't even send me the whole interview. They sent me clips. And I'm definitely one of those individuals that I am not going to just go off of a clip, not a 60-second clip, not even a 3-minute clip. And I sat and I listened to the entire interview. And this interview was conducted by, I think it's Mr. J Hill Network on YouTube. So you can definitely go ahead and, find the full interview. So Akbar V is a rapper. I am not fully familiar with a lot of her work, but I did make sure that I listened to her words and I listened to everything that she said, and I believe her. Like, I believe her, and I believe that, she does have a calling. And, sometimes we don't believe that because people are in a particular field. And that's something that we got to get past and get over because God can call any of us. God can call you right now. You might be, I don't want to say that someone might be listening to this and, robbing and killing, but God can always turn everything around. So, in this video, the first clip that I'm going to show you, she started to speak on how God told her that someone was her husband. And God revealed this to her in her dreams. And I believe that to be true because, like I said earlier, when we understand how God communicates to us, how God gives us instructions, you will start to realize, like, oh, this is how God speaks to me, or this is one of the ways that God can speak to me. And it is definitely through your dreams. So let's look at this first video clip.
Just like God showed me that this guy is my husband, right? And it's like this guy's in a relationship, but he's not married. And I asked my pastor, I say, Pastor, I had a dream that God showed me that this guy was my husband in the dream. And my pastor said, well, if God showed you that, that means that's your husband. And if you try to be with anybody else, it ain't gonna work. Nothing is gonna work. And that is surrendering to God. I can't go be in another relationship or this relationship or that relationship. It's not gonna work because God already chose this person for me. Even though he's in a relationship, right? But he's not married. God honor marriages, not boyfriend and girlfriend, right? God ain't gonna give me nobody else's husband. Just like God showed me that this guy.
Okay, so I hope y'all was able to see that. Um, and she's right. God can tell you that someone is your husband or your wife, and that person could be currently in a relationship. What a lot of people tend to forget is that just because you are in a relationship does not mean that it's a person God wants you and needs you to be with. There's a lot of confusion. I'm speaking very slow because I don't want anyone to take what I say out of context. I want us to be very clear about this. Just because you are in a relationship with someone does not mean that it's the person that God needs for you to be with for the rest of your life. And quite often we do believe I invested 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. This is where I'm supposed to be. That is not necessarily true. If God told you and that person, yes, I need y'all to both be together, then fine. That's definitely what God needs. However, if there's a lot of confusion, if there's a lot of uproar, if there's a lot of lack of trust, lack of respect in that union, one person is not growing. The other person is definitely evolving. And I'm not talking about teenagers. I'm not talking about even early 20s. I'm talking about in our 30s, our 40s, and 50s. If your relationship is not evolving, it might be time for you to have that uncomfortable conversation with God and ask God, is this person the person I'm supposed to be with? Because there could be another person that could be a better person for you to be with, right? And so, what I have taught people, the clients that I have worked with, and I even discussed this in my book. Next week, we're actually going to be doing the pre-recording that I did last year. So last year I did a 7-day, after we did the 7-day book reading discussion like I did this year. Last year I did a 7-day prayer and fast. And I'm going to pre-record that. God didn't tell me to do another one live. So I will do another one. I would just pre-record, re-record or restream those videos. But one thing that came up last year in that conversation and that prayer and that fast was to start praying for your husband, because it was women, for them to start praying for their husbands, even if their husbands were currently in relationships. And there were a lot of people that were very confused by that, because in their minds, why would I pray for him if he's currently in that relationship? And I always say, one, God loves for us to be cheerful, especially in our especially in our season of single. He wants us to be patient, but he wants us to be cheerful in our season as we are waiting. I'm going to say that again. He wants us to be cheerful in our season of single while we are waiting. And so that means I want that person, wherever he is, if he is still in a relationship, if he is still connected with someone, I want them to have a happy and healthy relationship. But I also pray that when they do break up, because if God is telling me this person is my husband, or God is telling you that someone is your wife, you do not want that relationship to end on such a sour, bad note. This is a misconception that we have because society has painted this picture that when something ends, it has to be bad, right? And it does not need to be that way. Y'all follow me? That relationship does not have to end in such a negative, toxic cycle. It can just end because that person, both of those individuals, have come to the understanding that you're not my person. That's the prayer that I pray for whenever that my husband and the person that he's in a relationship with, that they both have an understanding that we're not each other's people. There's no love lost, there's no disrespect, but I want to meet my person now. And I think if we start to have that conversation, if we start to encourage individuals to speak to God, God, reveal to me, is this the relationship I'm supposed to be in? Is this the connection that I'm supposed to be in? And if not, reveal it to me and the person. But see, a lot of people are not going to do that because, again, you have already made your determination. You have already assessed that we have years invested, we have children, we have property together, whatever the situation is. But if you are bold enough and you truly want to walk in the will of God, it might be time to challenge yourself to have that uncomfortable conversation and ask God, is this person the person I am supposed to be in this long-term relationship with? So that's the first thing. Now, the part that I did not care for in Akbar's interview is the next clip that I'm about to show you. Now, the next clip, because remember, she said God told her this man is her husband, and she got confirmation from her pastor, like, don't be with anyone else. But then the second part is the part that I'm thankful that God told me to listen to the full interview so I can get full context and I could speak, based off of what was actually said, not off of assumptions. So let's listen to the second part.
And then I met him, and I respect myself now.
How was it being with, like you say, you with somebody that's in a relationship? Like I never heard somebody just being so open about that or okay with that. Like,
Because
how was that?
I'm a real person.
How was that?
How is it?
Yeah.
Most days you cry because you want to see yourself.
Do y'all stay together?
No.
Is it like poly?
No. It's, he makes time. He does. And it's complicated. But I used to talk to him a long time ago. And I came back to him. I call him OG for that. And then I met him, and
All right, so we just watched that clip, right? So this is where the conflict came in for me. Because listening to what God has told me, that if this is the person, if I was to, this is God, how God explained it to me 2 years ago. If I tell someone that that is their husband or wife, they are not supposed to, one, go to that person and say, hey, God told me that you're my husband, or God said that you're my wife, especially if that person is already in a connection. You are supposed to step back and allow God to do what God's supposed to do. Like I said before that clip, you can pray. You can pray for that person. You can pray for their peace. You can pray for their happiness. You can pray for when it's, that relationship is coming to an end and it's coming to a close, that the person will have healing. You can pray for all of those things, but you are not supposed to insert yourself into that dynamic. That's the only part of the interview that I had a problem with, because we are living in such a society that side chicks and side pieces are becoming such the norm. And being that, and again, I'm no perfect person. None of us are perfect. I have been, when I was in my early 20s, I have been a side chick. And I have inserted myself into connections that I was not supposed to be there. And I'm not proud of that. Not saying that that's something to glorify. But when I asked God to forgive me, to free me from those actions that I was a part of in the past, I definitely do not want us as, Christ ambassadors, those that are anointed and appointed to do God's work, to find ourselves in those kind of strongholds, because you can block your blessings. You can block that connection, because you're going to end up, and it's a cliche statement, but it's a true statement. How you get them is how you're going to lose them. I never want to be that woman that play the second field or play side. Number two, that person leaves me. I'm sorry, that person leaves that first relationship and then brings me into it. I'm never going to be at peace. You're never going to be at peace, because you're now going to start wondering, if he moved this person from number one, moved me to the number one spot, is he going to have someone in number two? It's better to wait for God to intervene for God to have that connection and relationship to end. There's a lot of things that we can do while that's playing out. The time is not today. God is going to, this is why God is so beautiful, because he's going to bring that connection together at the anointed and appointed time that he needs it to. All God did was give her insight. That is your husband. And that's amazing because she's received insight that some of us are too afraid to even ask God for, or have never even heard God say to us. But when you go and say, God told me this is my husband, and I'm gonna go be his side chick, I'm gonna be his side piece while he figures that out. That's where we have confusion. God is not the author of confusion. He's not. He's not gonna give you someone else's husband, like she said in the first clip. He's not gonna give you someone else's husband. You know, God does honor marriage. God, she said God honors marriages, not boyfriend and girlfriend. But he definitely does not honor side pieces and side situations. So we have to realize that we can't contradict ourselves. And, I understand that she's on a journey and, it could be very difficult. I don't know her full story. Just listening. Sorry, y'all. Just listening to that interview, I learned a lot about her. And you hear a lot of pain. You hear just a lot of hurt. But that's why I say that when we are in that waiting season, it's best to start healing. It's best to start forgiving ourselves, working on our purpose, our finances. There's so much that we can do while we are waiting in that season of single. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So if that person is in a relationship and they are in a connection, but the best thing to do is to separate yourself and not insert yourself into that connection until God said so. As a single person who is waiting for their husband or their wife, you have a lot of work to do. Get the instructions from God. Ask God, what should I be doing in this season? If you get my book, we got 8 chapters that will give you nothing but insight of the things that you should be doing. There's a lot of work. Some of you are not operating in purpose. Some of you have not started healing. Some of you have not forgiven yourself. You have not forgiven people. So you have a lot of things that you can do instead of being a part of a connection that is too early for you to be a part of. Let God handle that. Let God end that relationship in a solid, mutual, peaceful way. Let God do that part. You don't have to be a part of that at all. You want your hands to stay clean. You want that. You don't want any karma, because I keep telling y'all, you're not going to have peace. Anytime that I have heard women and men who were in side situations, when they did have the opportunity to be that first person, they didn't sleep at night. They didn't have that peace that they thought they were going to have. Because you're going to now start understanding and seeing what that person was doing to someone else. You're going to see it. You're going to see it from that person's eyes when they were creeping with you. And you're now going to wonder, is someone there? Is there someone on the other side of those text messages that I should be concerned with? Are these things that I should worry about? Who wants that? Who wants that? Why would you want that in your connection? So I just share that because, I don't want us to get into this mindset that being number 2 is a punishment, or, You know that the person is. That's why, I'm very careful about asking God, show me who my husband is. I'm very careful about that. It's not something that I've ever asked God. I've asked God only once. And I do share that in my book. And if you get my book, and if you pre-order the audiobook, you will hear me speak and read this to you. But I talk about someone in my book named Sam. Sam. And Sam and I were the only two that I've ever had a connection with where we both went to God in prayer and fast. And we asked God if we should move forward together in that union. That was the only time. And we both heard no. And we were able to walk away peacefully, no hate, no animosity, none of that, because we both heard no. We were not each other's person. And there was no need to stay apart, to stay in connection. It was like I don't even have Sam's number anymore on my phone. I deleted that years ago. There was no need. And I actually saw that because I'm still connected to someone connected to Sam. Sam got married. I'm happy for him. That was one of my prayers when we stopped speaking. Like I pray that he finds his wife. And I pray that they have a healthy, long lasting relationship in marriage. That's what I want for him. And I still pray that prayer for him, even though we're no longer even friends or associates. So you do, you can, you can ask God, can you show me who my husband is? Can you show me who my wife is? Be careful because that temptation, especially if you do know that person personally, it can be quite difficult for you to not want to pursue that. And because you have an awareness. And I know, and Akbar, she didn't ask God. I don't know. She didn't say whether or not she asked God and God just revealed it to her in her dreams. She just said that God told her in her dreams that that was her husband. So I don't know what happened prior to that, but be careful about asking God that because if he does tell you it is someone who is famous, who's very well known, or who is in a connection, you could try to, make things happen well before they're supposed to. And that's where we get into trouble. So I hope this has given you a little bit of clarity. Oh, I hope that you have listened to the words that I have said. And I hope that I explained myself in a way that will help you to understand why that can be, being in that connection prematurely could potentially cause harm. It can, you know, cause things to go out of loop and for just your own sanity. So, like I said, shout out to Akbar V, shout out to Mr. J for that amazing. When I say that was a really good interview, and like I said, I love anyone that tells their story about their relationship with God because we need more authentic conversations like that where people are like everyday people, rappers, actresses, they're telling their stories because I think so often we paint this picture that a relationship with God has to be similar to what we see on just Sundays. And it's not. Your relationship with God can be so chill, relaxed, and so authentic. And that's what I love to share. I love sharing my relationship with God. It's quite humorous. People think I am super hilarious when I tell my stories about God and how God and I communicate. But that's what people need to know. Like God is not, how we have people painted this picture like he's like,
I am your father.
that's not how God speaks to us. I like that I have that sound effect now. Oh, I'm so cheesy. I'm so cheesy. All right. So again, pre-order your copy of Dear Single in Love audiobook. It is a nice little bundle. You're gonna get quite a bit. Pre-order it now. You will get it by January 2nd, 2023. Go to TanishaShanae.com /connect. Get your copy support. I totally would appreciate it. And you would get to hear my amazing voice. Let me tell you, I have learned to appreciate my voice during that journey. Um, and even now, like I hear myself and I'm like, it doesn't sound that bad. So I can understand why some of you like to listen to me when I go live. So I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. For those of you that are watching on a replay, shout out to you. And for those that are here watching live, shout out to you even more. I love you. I love all of you that have been supporting me throughout the journey, on my podcast, on Instagram, TikTok. I love everyone. Thank you for just being here with me, whether or not you're here live or on the replay. So, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Friday. I'm gonna go back to finishing editing the audiobook. So go ahead, hint, hint, put your pre-order in. Put your pre-order in so you can get your bundle by January 2nd. It's gonna be a nice little package for y'all. All right. I am Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration. Be well, be blessed.